Now this is a story all about how my life got flipped, turned upside down, and I'd like to tell a story about my VFR and how Superballs came to meet Murphy's Law. Hey everyone, this is Superballs hanging out with you today. Taking the reins in the When Ryder Meets Murphy series. I got the playlist in the video description, so you can check out the other Ryder's Encounters with Murphy's Law. Just want to give a shout out to SM26. His last story about yearly inspections. Now he had some things on his bike failing those things. So hopefully he got his brake lights and his tires up to spec, or ended up getting his special inspection certificate stamped. We have something sort of like that here. It's not exactly a yearly safety inspection. You have to do those when a vehicle changes hands. But we do have, so every 2 years we have to get emissions tests on any vehicle over 7 years old that was made after 1988. At one point it was sort of sensible. They used to stick something on your exhaust and actually measure your emissions. Now you have to go pay a mechanic $35-40 to plug a machine into your ODB2 sensor just to tell you if your check engine light is on or not. Because why actually just look at your check engine light, right? So hopefully he's got everything taken care of. But in the meantime, I got a little story to tell you. This is how Ryder meets Murphy.
Murphy, it's you.
The beginning of our story starts come spring. I was bikeless. My Magna had some electrical problems, still does. And that's a long story in and of itself. So it wouldn't turn over. I could jump it because the battery wasn't dead. Jump the solenoid, thing would turn over like mad. Boy, did it turn over. So anyway, we decided, you know what? I got this 31-year-old motorcycle that I love, and I do want it to run again. But it's time. It's time for another bike. So I get myself this beauty. This 99 VFR 800 FI, 5th generation. This gravel is still here. Urgh. Oh, it's not so bad anymore. Holy cow, is this a pile. Now this beautiful specimen of motorcycle came to me with 116,000 kilometers on it, just over. To which I'm now rolling over the 121 mark, which is pretty badass. Is this thing... Oh, I want to go this way. What am I talking about? This thing is not slouching. Oh, beautiful car. So I joined VFRdiscussion.com because VFR is in their name. Figured there'd be some knowledge there, and there is. It's a great site. So learn pretty quick. The charging systems on these are the Achilles heel. Stators go, the RR, the regulator rectifiers don't necessarily go out on their own, but the connectors get hot and melt and resistance increases, and then the rec runs hot and then it destroys itself. Something like that. Don't quote me for truth. Yeah, someone who knows this stuff better than I do might correct me. And please do, because if I don't understand something, I'd like to find out. Kind of like this one time I didn't understand gravity, almost floated off the planet. But I was corrected, and I'm still here. So, I got this bike. I bought it in downtown Toronto from a very, very nice guy who I should actually send a text message to, because he has a keen interest in this bike. He took really good care of it, and it's a good bike. Now, my wife and I, we're newlyweds. We've been together for a bit, but we're newlyweds. We got together. We got married in December. We had our reception in February. We decided our honeymoon would be in June. Now, initially, because I'd gotten her addicted to roller coasters last year, we thought 3 days at Cedar Point would be pretty awesome. I mean, the nice hotel there, you know, we don't have to spend the whole day just going ride after ride after ride. I thought I knew that guy. You know, we could just hang out. I mean, Cedar Point's beautiful outside the park. So there's the beaches, there's the hotels, there's shows. We were going to do a little documentary. But, and not regrettably so, but a huge but, now we're expecting. So that went out the window. I wasn't going to run around Cedar Point for 3 days while she just sat there and waited in line for stuff with me for a good chunk of the day. That didn't seem like a very nice honeymoon. So I said, hey, you're still early term, first trimester. Doctor said, you know, motorcycle's safe. Outside the normal risks, you know, motorcycling in of itself is not harmful to a baby. So he said, as long as you're comfortable. So he said, look, how about in June, we'll go on a tour. And we're going to go on a tour of southern and northern Ontario. Basically, if you take Ontario, we start in Windsor. We're going to go around the bay, and then we were going to go up Lake Huron and through Sarnia and up to Owen Sound and up Bruce Peninsula and then Tobermory, and we're going to take a ferry across to Manitoulin Island, then we're going to go across the island. And then once we were done with the island, we were gonna go down to Sudbury and visit some people that I knew for a long time because I lived up there for a while. And then we're gonna head down to Huntsville or to North Bay and then Huntsville to visit another old rider and bowling buddy of mine. And then down to Vaughan to stop by, see my sister-in-law. And then to Niagara Falls, and then we're going to follow Lake Erie back to Windsor, stopping my grandmother's and aunts and stuff. It was a pretty long tour. We're talking about 2,000 kilometers, something like that. Now, when I bought this bike, it was overheating. So the first thing, I bought it 15 minutes. This thing went up to 137 degrees Celsius. And I'm going to try right now and get a good shot of the temperature gauge, which is set to ambient. It says 28 Celsius. I hope you saw it. If not, I'll take a picture of it and I'll put it in post. I like that. It's handy. Usually I had it set to the ambient temperature. Now, once this thing gets to 122 degrees Celsius, which is roughly 250 degrees Fahrenheit, the ambient temperature switched to the engine temperature and started flashing. And the black line there, hopefully you can see it again, well, stopped being there. And it covers, when the bike's off, it covers a red line when it's flashing and it's red. We don't like that. So, 137 degrees. I didn't know how hot this thing could or couldn't get, really. So I just I was like, hope I can get moving. As long as I'm moving, this thing was fine. But stopped in the traffic, oh, it was terrible. So once we got out of downtown Toronto, the temperatures dropped to normal. I knew at this point I had to do something about overheating. And that was simple. I got the fairings off, and before we went for the tour, I rode this thing around with almost no coolant for 2 months, because I'm an idiot. I mean, it got hot a couple times. It wasn't really too bad of a problem, because traffic here in Windsor isn't all that bad, so a couple times it started flashing, and I just turn it off, or let it cool down or whatnot, or get somewhere where I could at least get moving. Now the thing with this bike is it's 2 side-mounted radiators, and there's a fan over on the left side here that blows in and across, and is really good at burning my right leg. So if there's anything I don't like about this bike, it's that. It melts my boots. But I got some coolant in there, and then the fans started working. That was the thing. The fans are triggered by fan switches that are triggered by coolant temperature. So the coolant gets to a certain temperature, which is about 106, the fans turn on. So I had my fans turned on, and I had to burp the coolant, get all the air out. So I started the bike and let it there. The coolant started bubbling out. I turn it off, and I turn it on, turn it off, turn it on. Now at the same time, I installed this little doohickey here, the USB charger. Tested it, plugged my phone in for a second, made sure it worked. It did. I was happy. When I was going to see my wife, because she was on afternoon, so I go see her on her lunch. I went to go see her, and the bike wouldn't start, wouldn't turn over. I was like, oh, I broke something. So I'd killed the battery, and I thought, well, I mean, I started it and stopped it and started it and stopped it. So I plugged it into my car, I boosted it with the car, got a little bit impatient, and I boosted it, I think, the wrong way. Normally I boost the battery, I go, is it red to red, black to ground? So I get the battery charged, I ride it around the city, down the expressway, you know, good RPMs, and try to get a decent charge in the system. Now I took the Thursday and Friday before our trip off to make sure I had the bike in tip-top shape. So I have coolant in the bike, it's not overheating, I was happy. Fans turn on, which they never did before, so I knew they weren't broken, so I was happy. But I had some battery issues. Well, I got the battery charged, the bike seemed to start alright, and that made me happy. So when I picked my wife up that night, which I picked her up on the bike, and it was, you know, 1:45 to midnight, when I got there and everything was good, nothing would start when I got her on the bike. And I panicked. I mean, it just wouldn't do anything. The key wouldn't, the light wouldn't turn on. I was like, battery can't be that fast, and I charged it good. So I pulled the seat up and I disconnected I noticed the black lead, the negative lead was loose, so I just unhooked the USB power completely, and the bike started up, and I was like, okay, good, problem solved. So now I'm thinking, maybe this USB thing started, because that's the electrical system I added to the bike. So I left it unplugged. So the next day, Friday, we went and took care, we got a couple supplies, so we made a couple stops, started the bike, and it was good. Sat in traffic. I showed my wife how the fans came on and how the bike wasn't overheating. She was happy. And then we went to go grab some money. And then we got the money and we got on the bike, and it wouldn't start. The battery was dead, and that sucked. Now I'd just been riding around, how was the battery dead? So this was the mystery. And then I think I figured it out. Now the regulator rectifier on these bikes is a weak point. Apparently so are the stators. I've got a boost. I went to my bike mechanic. I rode it there. I put the bike in neutral, parked it, and left it running and said, I can't start the bike again if I... Now as it turns out, we tested the battery, and the battery would run, and it would charge at 12.3 volts, which is barely charging. And the bike had been doing this for a while. Probably since I got it. But it never discharged. Not once. Not until I added the coolant. And I thought, man, this USB thing, if I throw the switch so it's off, the USB ports don't take power, and the 12 volt, the lighter adapter, cigarette lighter adapter, it doesn't take power unless it's in use. So this is odd. So this thing is barely charging, and they're running it, and I remember the mechanic was so perplexed. He said, it charges. I mean, just barely. It's not making enough voltage. So it charges, and then it stops. It goes down to like 11 something volts. That's when I realized I'd figured it out. I asked him, I said, does it charge? I said, check the engine temperature. I said, does it stop charging when the engine gets to about 106 degrees? So he tested it, and he's like, yeah. And Eureka. I had added 2 electrical systems. The second electrical system that wasn't in play before was the fans. So basically, I was generating barely enough voltage to charge the battery when the bike was running. But when the fans kicked on, it took all that extra voltage and then some, and the bike was running and the battery was discharging. So this trip would have been possible because we could have run down the highway for days and the battery would have been charging. Stator was providing enough. So we looked in and checked the regulator rectifier, which is a $200 part in this, unless you go with the Chinese crap. Now for electrical systems, I'm not against Chinese crap, unless it's a mission critical system. I don't want Chinese crap mission critical systems. This camera I'm using is Chinese crap and I love it. I didn't even say Chinese crap, it's a knockoff GoPro. It's cheap, but it does a good job. I guess that makes it not crap. Anyway, I had to leave the bike in the shop, and he tried getting the stator, or the reg rack, and looked in the stator, and he said, I'm not exactly sure, but I think it's the stator. I asked him to check the connections. He said they're not melted. They have a bit of a smell, but they're not melted. They don't look damaged. So, in all respect, the guy, he was not going to let me he wasn't going to order Chinese crap for me. That's what he said. I don't want no Chinese junk going in a bike that I fixed. I said, okay, I can respect that. My honeymoon, well, we went in the car. Unfortunately, we were always like, yeah, this road would be great on the bike. Yeah, this road would be great on the bike. But we went and we enjoyed it. And we were in the car and we camped and we had fun. We took the ferry. I gave her an experience. She'd never had before. She'd never been on the big boat. We roundabout! I love a roundabout. So yes, just days before my honeymoon, on my new-to-me bike, I had stator failure and had to take the car on my honeymoon.
Dead or alive, you are coming with me.
We're not going to let it ruin the honeymoon, but still, it would have been awesome on the bike. That's all I got for you today. That's my story on how Superballs met Murphy. Okay everyone, thanks for hanging out with me today. If you like this video and you want to see more, hit the subscribe button up here. Feel free to check out my other videos as well. Right here, right here. Anyway, Peace out. Ride safe.